The shipyards above Earth burned with continuous light, welding torches and plasma cutters working in shifts that never ended. Humanity had learned something fundamental during its centuries of struggle. When extinction looms, sleep becomes negotiable. 3 million workers operated on rotation schedules that would have killed them in peacetime, sustained by stimulants, determination, and the terrible knowledge that failure meant oblivion. Admiral Catherine Zhang walked the construction platforms daily, her presence a living reminder of what they fought for. She spoke with welders who'd lost children to Dominion bombardments. She shook hands with engineers whose homeworlds were at. She looked into the eyes of people who understood that every ship they built was simultaneously a weapon and a coffin. The Prometheus-class dreadnoughts are holding together, Chief Engineer Raymond Kofi reported, his voice hoarse from shouting orders across vacuum. We've integrated the ancient star technology into our reactor cores. The energy output is 300% above standard human engineering. The math says it shouldn't work. But it does. Zhang finished. It does. Kofi smiled tiredly. Maybe the universe respects stubborn bastards more than we thought. Zhang looked out across the orbital platforms, counting ships that gleamed like promise against the void. 27 dreadnoughts, 43 heavy cruisers, 116 destroyers, hundreds of support vessels, troop carriers, medical frigates, everything a fleet needed to wage war across stellar distances. It wasn't enough to match the Dominion's raw numbers, but numbers had never been humanity's advantage. How many crews are fully trained? She asked. Kofi consulted his tablet. 68% combat ready. The rest are learning on simulators, but nothing prepares you for real combat except real combat. Zhang nodded. Then we'll give them that. Operations begin in 48 hours. Every ship that can fly, every crew that can fight, we're taking them to war. Admiral, some of those crews have only been together for 3 weeks. The Dominion has been together for 3,000 years, and they still don't understand what makes us dangerous. Zhang's expression hardened into something that could cut stars. We don't need perfect. We need willing, and humanity has never lacked for people willing to fight impossible odds. She left Kofi staring after her, then activated her command channel to reach General Okonkwo at the surface military complex. Richard, it's time. Issue the call. Operation Prometheus Phase 2 begins in 48 hours. I want every allied species, every rebel faction, every world that's tasted Dominion brutality to know humanity is done running. We're coming for the throne itself. Okonkwo's response carried grim satisfaction. The Uthmara resistance has confirmed they'll support the offensive. Same with the Krell refugee fleets and the Shantari underground. 17 species, Admiral. 17 species who've decided that dying free beats living subjugated. Good. Zhang allowed herself one moment of fierce pride. Captain Voss would have appreciated this. She died so strangers could live free. Now those strangers are about to return the favor. One more thing. Okonkwo added, we've located Vokarel. Intelligence confirms he's at the Dominion staging area in the Corfax system, personally overseeing the Grand Reclamation Fleet's assembly. 300 capital ships growing daily. Then that's where we hit them. Sang pulled up the stellar charts, her tactical mind already calculating vectors and probabilities. Before they can launch their assault on Sol, we catch them divided, scattered across the staging system. We don't fight their fleet, we destroy it piece by piece before it can form. That's a 27-day transit at maximum hyperspace velocity. Then we'd better launch on schedule. Zhang cut the connection, feeling the weight of command settle across her shoulders like a familiar burden. How many would die in the coming months? How many names would she add to the list of ghosts she carried? It didn't matter. Not because their lives had no value, but because they'd chosen this. Every human in the fleet knew the odds. Knew the odds statistically, most wouldn't survive the year. They came anyway. That was what made them dangerous. Dominion staging area, Corfax system, 41 days later. High Adjudicator, Vokarel, observed the gathering fleet with satisfaction running through all 17 thought streams simultaneously. The Grand Reclamation Fleet represented the largest military mobilization in Dominion history, 347 capital ships, each one a masterwork of crystalline engineering and mathematical warfare. Around them, 15,000 support vessels formed geometric patterns that would make a human mathematician weep for the beauty of their precision. This force could subjugate entire sectors. It would more than suffice to crush one stubborn death world. Status of the rebellious colonies? He asked battle coordinator Jinx. The Krellick's mandibles clicked through data streams. 18 of 19 uprisings have been contained. Casualties, 7 million rebels, 4,000 Dominion personnel. Resistance is collapsing as predicted. The mathematical certainty of our superiority is being re-established. In the 19th, Ishimara Home System. They've fortified their primary world with salvaged human weapons technology. Projections indicate containment will require 3 additional weeks and acceptable casualties. Vokrel's harmonics carried displeasure. Acceptable by whose calculation? Every day we delay gives the humans more time to prepare Earth's defenses. I want the Yithmara resistance crushed within 7 days. Deploy the extinction protocols if necessary. Jinx hesitated. A pause so brief only another Dominion operative would notice. The extinction protocols are reserved for species deemed irredeemable. The Yithmara can still be integrated with The Yithmara chose their fate when Kixlar betrayed us. Vokrel's certainty was absolute. They proved that some species cannot be civilized, only eliminated. Execute the protocols. Make them an example of what happens when order is rejected. It will be done. Alone in his command chamber, Vokrel reviewed the strategic projections one final time. The fleet would depart for Sol in 12 days. Transit time, 9 weeks. Total campaign duration from Earth's perspective, 3 months to witness their inevitable defeat. It was elegant, efficient, inevitable. The Eternal Council had given him one mandate: end the human resistance so completely that no species would dare emulate their defiance for the next 10,000 cycles. He would exceed expectations. He would make humanity's extinction a mathematical proof that courage without power was indistinguishable from suicide. The alarm shattered his contemplation. Sax screamed through the dreadnought's corridors, a sound Vokrel had never heard outside simulations. His tactical display erupted with red signatures, hundreds of them appearing at the system's hyperspace emergence points like blood and water. Report, he commanded, his harmonics spiking with something dangerously close to panic. Unidentified fleet emerging from hyperspace. Jinx's voice carried unprecedented urgency. Multiple vectors, coordinated arrival times, weapon systems hot. Configuration matches human naval architecture. His mandibles froze. Admiral, there are over 300 vessels. The humans weren't supposed to have this many ships. Vokrel's 17 thought streams collapsed into one singular realization. They'd been outmaneuvered. The humans hadn't waited to be attacked. They'd brought the war here. All ships combat stations. He ordered forcing calculation to overcome shock. Deploy defensive formations. Delta 7. Launch all fighters. This is not a raid, this is a full fleet engagement. They're trying to destroy us before we can reach Earth. Incoming transmission. Jinx reported. Human command frequency. Audio only. Vokrel activated it, needing to hear what madness drove them to this suicide assault. Admiral Catherine Zhang's voice filled the command center, calm, measured, carrying the weight of someone who'd already calculated every cost and accepted the bill. High Adjudicator Vokrel. This is Admiral Zhang of the United Nations Space Command. You were coming to my home. I decided to save you the trip. A pause pregnant with meaning. You taught the galaxy to fear your mathematical certainty. Today we teach you to fear our irrational courage. All human vessels, weapons free. Show them what Deathworlders do when we stop running. The transmission cut. And the killing began. UNASC Dreadnought Prometheus, Fleet Command Bridge. The view from the bridge was terrible and beautiful. A ballet of destruction choreographed by desperation and determination. Admiral Zhang stood at the center of the tactical hologram, watching 300 human ships engage a Dominion fleet that outmassed them by significant margins. But mass wasn't everything. Speed, coordination, the willingness to trade your life for strategic advantage. These were the currencies that mattered in the mathematics of war. Attack Wing Delta. Concentrate fire on their command cruisers, she ordered, her voice cutting through the chaos with surgical precision. The Wing Gamma. Flank their left formation and harass their supply vessels. Make them choose between protecting their logistics or their command structure. Captain Diana Cross, her tactical officer and the closest thing Zhang had to a friend who wasn't dead, highlighted targets on the display. Dominion fleet is reforming. They're pulling their capital ships into a defensive sphere, trying to maximize their overlapping fire zones. Good. That's what I wanted. Zhang smiled without warmth. Concentrated formation means concentrated targets. Launch the Prometheus package. Cross hesitated. Admiral, we've only tested that weapon system twice. The success rate doesn't matter. We're not here to play it safe. Zhang activated the fleet-wide channel. All Prometheus-class dreadnoughts, activate your ancient star reactors to maximum output. Route all power to the primary weapons. We're about to show the Dominion what happens when Deathworld engineering meets technology that predates their empire. 27 dreadnoughts responded simultaneously, their reactor cores igniting with energy that bent space itself. The ancient stars had given humanity one gift above all others: an understanding that the universe wasn't just matter and energy, but information, and information properly manipulated could be weaponized. The Prometheus package wasn't a bullet or a beam. It was reality disagreeing with Dominion certainty. Zhang counted down. 3, 2, 1, fire. 27 dreadnoughts released their payload, quantum disruption fields that propagated at light speed, washing over the Dominion's defensive sphere like a wave of impossible mathematics. Where the fields intersected Dominion shields, the shields didn't break. They forgot how to exist. The crystalline force fields that had protected Dominion ships for 3,000 years simply stopped being real. And behind those vanished shields, human railguns found naked hulls. All ships, weapons free, Zhang roared. Hit them while they're exposed. The human fleet surged forward like a pack of wolves that had just caught their prey limping. Railgun slugs, primitive by galactic standards but devastating when nothing stopped them, punched through Dominion armor. Missile salvos, each one guided by human pilots who understood that sometimes winning meant accepting collision courses, detonated against capital ship superstructures. The Dominion fleet reeled. But they didn't break. Enemy formation is adapting, Cross reported. They're rerouting power to backup shield generators. We'll have maybe 4 more minutes before they're protected again. Then we make those 4 minutes count. On targeted the largest Dominion dreadnought, the Eternal Correctness, Vaccarella's flagship. All dreadnoughts, focus fire on Vaccarella's ship. If we can decapitate their command, this fleet falls apart. But even as she gave the order, she knew it wouldn't be that easy. The Dominion had been waging war for millennia. They knew how to survive. Dominion dreadnought. Eternal Correctness. Vorger felt his ship shudder as human weapons found their mark. 17 parallel thought streams processed the catastrophic data. Shields offline, armor breached in 14 sections, casualties mounting across all decks. The humans had done something impossible, temporarily negated the fundamental physics that made Dominion shields impenetrable. How? He demanded, forcing his harmonics to remain stable even as chaos consumed his calculations. How did they neutralize our defensive matrices? Unknown, Jinnix reported, his own composure fracturing. The weapon system doesn't match any known technology in the galactic database. It's as if they're rewriting the fundamental laws governing our shields on a quantum level. Ancient star technology. The realization crashed through Vaccarell's consciousness like a singularity collapsing. The humans hadn't just inspired rebellion. They'd forged alliances with powers the Dominion had specifically avoided confronting. Powers that understood physics at levels beyond even Dominion comprehension. Backup shields are coming online, Jinnix continued. But Admiral, we've lost 47 ships in the opening engagement. Human casualties are also significant. Their assault wings are taking horrific losses, but their tactical approach is effective. Vaccarell studied the battle display with new understanding. The humans weren't trying to defeat the Grand Reclamation Fleet through superior firepower. They were trying to destroy it before it could properly form, hitting everywhere at once, forcing the Dominion to fight 17 separate battles simultaneously. It was the same strategy the humans had used on Earth for centuries: divide and conquer, rendered in starships and plasma fire. Retarget all main batteries on the human dreadnoughts, he ordered. Those Prometheus-class ships are their force multipliers. Eliminate them, and the human fleet loses its advantage. The Eternal Correctness swung its massive guns toward the Prometheus. Vauquerel activated a direct channel to Admiral Zhang, needing to understand the alien psychology that drove such calculated madness. "Admiral Zhang," he began, his translator rendering his harmonics into human speech. "You've committed your entire fleet to this assault. Even if you succeed in damaging my forces, you'll have nothing left to defend Earth when the Dominion returns. This is strategic suicide." Zhang's response came without hesitation. "Maybe, but you're still here, bleeding, instead of at Salah. Every ship you lose here is one you can't use to attack my home. Every day we delay you is another day Earth has to prepare. You taught us that war is mathematics, Vicaris." Her voice carried a smile that promised pain. "We're teaching you that sometimes the equation includes variables you can't predict, like how many humans are willing to die just to prove you're not invincible." Vauquerel felt something unprecedented ripple through his consciousness. "Doubt. You're condemning your species to extinction for symbolism," he said. "No, we're buying our children a chance. That's not symbolism. That's hope. And hope is the most dangerous weapon Deathworlders possess." The channel cut. The Prometheus opened fire, and Vauquerel realized with terrible clarity that he'd made the same mistake every empire makes. He'd assumed that survival was the highest goal, that rational beings would always choose submission over death. Humans chose differently. They chose defiance, even when it killed them. 73 hours into the Battle of Corfax, the system had become a graveyard. Debris from shattered ships formed artificial asteroid fields, each fragment a memorial to someone who'd believed courage could change mathematics. Human wrecks drifted beside Dominion husks, democracy and tyranny united in death. Admiral Zhang's tactical display looked like a butcher's ledger. Human losses: 147 ships destroyed, 93 damaged beyond immediate combat capacity. Casualty count approaching 40,000 souls. Dominion losses: 212 ships destroyed, 78 crippled, estimated casualties over 100,000. The mathematics were brutal. Humanity had traded nearly 1-to-1 against an enemy with vastly superior technology and training. But 1-to-1 wasn't enough. The Dominion still had numbers. "Admiral," Captain Cross said quietly, her voice carrying the exhaustion of 3 days without sleep. "Our remaining combat-effective ships number 87. The Dominion has over 200 functional vessels. We've hurt them, but they're reforming. If we stay, they'll overwhelm us through simple attrition." Jing knew she was right, knew that the rational decision was to withdraw, to retreat to Earth and prepare for the inevitable siege. But rationality had never been humanity's strongest trait. "Send a message to all allied forces," she ordered. "Amarakrel, Shantari, every species fighting in this system. Tell them to fall back through the inner hyperspace lanes. We've accomplished the mission, delayed the Dominion, proven they can be fought, bought Earth another 6 months minimum." "And us?" Cross asked. Zhang looked at the display showing the Prometheus, her flagship scarred by 100 impacts but still flying, still fighting. "We stay. Someone needs to cover the retreat. Make sure our allies escape to fight another day." "Catherine." "That's an order, Diana." Zhang met her friend's eyes. "Get to the escape pods. You and the rest of the command crew. I'm staying with the ship." "You know I can't do that." Zhang smiled. "I know, but I had to offer." They stood together, watching the Dominion fleet advance like a tsunami of organized violence. "For what it's worth," Cross said softly, "we hurt them. Really hurt them. The intelligence we've gathered, the tactical data, the proof that ancient star technology can counter Dominion shields, Earth will use that. We've given them tools to finish what we started. That's all I ever wanted?" Zhang activated the ship-wide channel one last time. "All hands. This is Admiral Zhang. I won't insult you with speeches about honor or duty. You knew the odds when you volunteered. You came anyway. That makes you the bravest people humanity has ever produced." She paused, feeling the weight of every name, every face. "The Allied fleets are withdrawing. We're going to buy them time. Some of you will survive. Most won't. But win or lose, live or die. Remember this, we proved that humans don't surrender. We proved that death-world courage can break celestial certainty. And we proved that sometimes the most important victory isn't survival. It's making them remember we existed." Silence answered her. Then from every station, every deck, every human still breathing on the Prometheus, "Aye, Admiral." The ship turned toward the advancing Dominion fleet. Alone, defiant, already dying, but not yet dead. Zhang keyed the weapons control. All batteries, fire at will. Make every shot count. And someone play music. If we're going to die, we might as well do it with style. Through the speakers, an old Earth song began to play. Something about not going gentle into that good night. About raging against the dying of the light. The Prometheus fired its main guns. And the Dominion learned what it meant to fight something that refused to accept defeat. 12 hours later, the Prometheus died hard. By the time the Dominion boarding parties secured the bridge, they found Admiral Catherine Zhang slumped in her command chair, plasma burns across her chest, tactical display still flickering with combat data. She was alive. Barely. Borkerlo himself came to the bridge, needing to witness this impossible human who'd cost him nearly 300 ships. "Admiral Zhang," he said, his translator rendering genuine curiosity. "Why? You could have withdrawn. Saved yourself, saved your crew. Instead, you stayed to die. For what purpose?" Zhang's eyes opened, barely focused, but carrying unmistakable defiance. "Time," she whispered. "Bought 6 months, minimum. And you learned. We can hurt you. At catastrophic cost. Your fleet is destroyed. You've gained nothing." "Wrong," Zhang smiled, and it was terrible to behold. "Gained hope. Every species, watching this battle, saw us bleed you, saw you retreat, saw that Deathworlders fight anyway." She coughed, blood on her lips. "You wanted to make humanity's defeat a mathematical proof that courage without power equals suicide." Vauquerel said nothing. "Instead, you proved that courage, without overwhelming power, can still make you bleed, can still cost you everything you thought was certain." Her voice was fading. "That's the lesson the galaxy will remember." "You're dying for symbolism," Vauquerel said, but his harmonics carried doubt. "No." Zhang's final word carried the weight of 300 ships and 40,000 souls. "Dying for truth. Freedom. Worth fighting for. Even when you lose." She closed her eyes. And Admiral Catherine Zhang, who'd gambled humanity's fleet on one impossible battle, died with a smile that promised, "This isn't over." Vauquerel stood in the ruined bridge, surrounded by human corpses and shattered technology, and felt his 17 thought streams converge on one unprecedented conclusion. The humans hadn't won, but they'd achieved something more dangerous than victory. They'd made the Dominion afraid. Earth. Geneva Fortress. 6 months later. General Richard Okonkwo stood in the War Council chamber, looking at faces that had changed in the months since Zhang's sacrifice. The Allied fleets had returned, battered, diminished, but alive. The intelligence they'd brought back, tactical data on Dominion vulnerabilities, specifications on how ancient star technology could counter crystalline shields, proof that coordinated attacks could overwhelm superior numbers, had transformed Earth's defensive strategy. The shipyards had continued building. New crews had trained on the lessons learned from the Battle of Corfax. And across 17 species, word had spread. Humanity fought the Dominion and survived. Not won, not defeated, but survived. And sometimes survival was its own kind of victory. "The Dominion fleet is approaching Seoul," Dr. Amara Patel reported, her voice steady despite the fear that lived behind her eyes. Vauquerlo rebuilt his forces. Current count 420 ships. They'll reach Earth orbit in 72 hours. "Our strength," Senator Lu Fang asked. 193 operational warships, plus orbital defense platforms and ground-based artillery. Okonkwo pulled up the defensive projections. We're outnumbered 2-1, but we're fighting on our territory. And we have one advantage Chang bought us. The Prometheus Doctrine, Captain Diana Cross, promoted to Admiral after her escape from Corfax, said quietly. Admiral Zhang's final gift. The understanding that we don't need to defeat the Dominion's fleet, we just need to make them choose between conquering Earth and preserving their empire. Explain, Lu Feng demanded. Cross activated the holographic display, showing not just Sol but dozens of surrounding systems. While Vukarel gathered his forces to attack Earth, we've been coordinating with every rebel faction, every subjugated species. The Yethmara are preparing simultaneous uprisings on 11 Dominion worlds. The Krell are hitting supply lines. The Shantari are sabotaging communication networks. When Vukarel attacks Earth, he'll be doing it while his entire empire burns behind him. That's Zhang's strategy, Okonkwo said softly. Make them choose crush humanity or save their civilization. Either way, the Dominion loses. And if they choose Earth? Patel asked. If Goril decides that making an example of us is worth the cost, then we fight. Okonkwo's voice carried the weight of every soldier who'd ever chosen courage over calculation. And we make them pay for every meter of Earth they touch. Zhang taught us that victory isn't always about survival. Sometimes it's about making them remember what it cost to beat you. He looked around the table, meeting each pair of eyes. 72 hours until the Dominion arrives. 72 hours to prepare for the battle that will determine whether humanity continues to exist. Use them well, because when Vukarel's fleet enters orbit, we're going to show him something the Dominion has never faced. An entire planet united in defiance. All of Earth? Lu Feng asked. Unified? Every nation, every faction, every human who can hold a weapon. Okonkwo's smile was iron wrapped in flesh. We've spent our entire history fighting each other, but when an external threat emerges, when extinction comes calling, humanity does something remarkable. We remember that our differences matter less than our shared survival. That's our secret weapon. Cross added. Not technology, not tactics. Unity forged in desperation. The Dominion conquers species one at a time. They've never faced a death world that decided its internal conflicts could wait until after the invasion was defeated. The chamber fell silent. Then Senator Lu Feng stood, his political instincts finally aligned with the patriot beneath. For Admiral Zhang, he said simply. For Captain Voss, Cross added. For every human who died believing freedom was worth the cost, Okonkwo finished. And in that moment, the War Council became something more. A promise that humanity would not go quietly into extinction. That Deathworlders, when pushed to the edge, didn't surrender. They fought. And even in defeat, they made their enemies pay. 72 hours later, Earth orbit. The Dominion Grand Reclamation Fleet emerged from hyperspace like an avalanche of crystalline certainty. 420 ships, each one a masterwork of mathematical warfare, arrayed in formation patterns that spoke of 3,000 years of military supremacy. Adjudicator Vukarel stood on the bridge of his new flagship, the eternal correctness having been rebuilt after Corfax, and studied Earth with all 17 thought streams focused on one objective. Make humanity's defeat so complete that no species would dare emulate their resistance for the next 10,000 cycles. Broadcast the ultimatum, he ordered. The transmission washed over every communication frequency, every screen, every device capable of receiving a signal. Humans of Earth. This is High Adjudicator, Vukarel of the Dominion. Your resistance has been calculated and found insufficient. Your fleet was destroyed at Corfax. Your allies have abandoned you. You stand alone against 400 capital ships in the full military might of the Celestial Throne. I offer you one final choice. Surrender unconditionally. Accept integration into the Dominion as a subjected species, and your lives will be preserved. Continue your defiance, and Earth will be rendered uninhabitable. The choice is yours. You have one standard hour to respond. The transmission ended. Silence answered. Then from every orbital platform, every ship, every military installation and civilian shelter across the entire planet. Humanity responded not with words but with action. They opened fire. Every weapon, every defense platform, every railgun and missile battery and plasma cannon that humanity had built in the months since Corfax ignited simultaneously. The sky above Earth transformed into light, and Admiral Diana Cross, commanding the last human fleet from the bridge of the rebuilt Prometheus II, activated the fleet-wide channel. All ships, all crews, all humans listening to this broadcast. The Dominion offered us life as slaves. We choose death as free people. Admiral Zhang taught us that courage isn't about winning. It's about refusing to surrender even when victory is impossible. Today, we honor her memory. Today, we prove that deathworld tenacity can outlast celestial certainty. She paused, looking out at the Dominion fleet that outnumbered them more than 2-1. For Earth, for humanity, for every species that ever dared to dream of freedom, the human fleet charged, and the final battle began. The Battle of Earth lasted 17 hours. In orbit, ships burned and shattered, human and Dominion alike. The mathematics were brutal. For every Dominion capital ship destroyed, humanity lost 3. The numbers tilted inexorably toward defeat. But humans had never respected the numbers. They fought with the desperation of a species facing extinction, the creativity of apex predators, the stubborn refusal to die that had carried them through ice ages and plagues and wars that should have ended their story a dozen times over. The Prometheus doctrine worked, not perfectly, but enough. While Volcaral concentrated his forces on Earth, 17 Dominion worlds erupted in coordinated rebellion. Supply lines fractured. Communication networks collapsed. The Empire began to crack. On Earth's surface, when orbital defenses fell and Dominion ground forces landed, they found something worse than an army waiting. An entire planet that refused to be conquered. Civilians with improvised weapons. Cities transformed into fortresses. Resistance fighters using terrain knowledge that no Dominion calculation could predict. Humanity fought in streets and sewers and mountains, in deserts and tundra and jungles. Every biome their death world had created, turned into weapons against invaders. The Dominion took cities. Humans made them pay for every building. The Dominion established footholds. Humans made those footholds graveyards. And somewhere in the chaos, High Adjudicator Volcaral realized the terrible truth. He couldn't win. Not because the Dominion lacked military superiority. They had firepower sufficient to glass Earth 10 times over. But because destroying Earth meant acknowledging that a single death world had forced the entire Dominion to commit genocide just to maintain control. And if one species could push them that far, others might try. The rebellion would spread. The Empire would fracture. All because humanity refused to accept the logical conclusion of their own defeat. On the 18th hour of battle, Volcaral made a decision that would haunt him through whatever remained of his existence. He withdrew. Not in defeat. The Dominion never admitted defeat, but in strategic repositioning. All ships, disengage, he ordered, his harmonics carrying an unprecedented uncertainty. Fall back to defensive positions. Maintain orbital blockade but cease planetary assault. Admiral? Junix's confusion was palpable. We have sufficient forces to continue. No. Volcaral's 17 thought streams converged on one truth. We have sufficient forces to destroy Earth, but destruction validates their narrative, that we're tyrants worth dying to resist. We need a different approach. He opened a channel to Earth, knowing this communication would be recorded, analyzed, remembered. Admiral Cross, I'm offering a ceasefire, not surrender. The Dominion does not surrender, but recognition. You've proven that humanity cannot be easily conquered. That subjugating your species would cost more than the value of integration. Cross's response came after a long pause. What are your terms? Isolation. Earth remains independent. No Dominion ships enter Sol without permission. No human ships enter Dominion space. You remain in your system, we maintain our empire. The alternative is mutual annihilation. We eventually overwhelm you through attrition, but not before you inspire a dozen more rebellions that tear the Dominion apart. That's not victory, Cross said. No. It's survival. For both our species. The channel fell silent. Then, I need to consult with our government. You have 12 hours. Geneva Fortress. War Council emergency session. The debate raged for 6 of those 12 hours. Some argued for continued resistance. The Dominion could be beaten. Earth had proven it. Others pointed to casualty figures. 4 million humans dead in 18 hours. Orbital platforms destroyed. Cities reduced to rubble. The cost of victory would be extinction. General Okonkwo spoke last. Admiral Zhang died to buy us time. Captain Voss died to inspire the galaxy. 4 million humans died in the last day alone. We've paid every price courage can demand. But courage without wisdom is just another form of suicide. He looked around the room. Vokrel is offering us something no Dominion has ever offered a resistant species. Acknowledgement. He's admitting that conquering humanity would cost more than we're worth. That's not defeat. That's changing the equation. We'll be isolated. Yes. But we'll be free and we'll have proven to every subjugated species in the galaxy that resistance is possible. We'll be trapped in our own system, someone argued. For now, Okonkwo countered. But the Dominion is cracking. The rebellions we inspired won't stop just because Earth accepted a ceasefire. And while we're isolated, we'll be building, learning, growing, using the ancient star technology to advance. When the Empire finally falls, and it will fall, humanity will be ready to help build whatever comes next. The vote was close, but survival won. Admiral Cross transmitted humanity's response. We accept the ceasefire. Sol remains independent. Any Dominion ship that violates our space will be destroyed. We will not forget what you did to us. We will not forgive the species you crushed. But we will stop fighting. For now, Vokrel's response was simple. Agreed. May we never meet in battle again. The Dominion fleet withdrew. Earth breathed. And across the galaxy, 17 species saw what had seemed impossible. A death world had forced the Dominion to blink.